loss to be, and then continue to go down from there. Yeah. Okay, cool. All right, guys, welcome. Good to see you guys, Biscuit, Rocky, Shashing. We also have Mosen. Welcome, welcome. Anchistan, good to see you. All right, so there's really no topic of lecture unless you guys have certain things you really want to look at or learn. We can always entertain the idea. So if you have a particular skill, particular TA, technical analysis, yeah, no worries, Mosen. It's totally fine. If you have something you want to learn, right, feel free to let me know, and then we can go over some concepts here. What's up, Brad and Titan? Good to see you guys. What's up, Willie? Yeah, so anything you want to learn, Fibonacci, trend lines, support resistance, entry, TP, risk management. Yeah, so just anything you guys, wanted to learn. Usually Friday, I don't really do scalps. I kind of just, go over some fundamental concepts of how to read charts so you guys can understand them. Yeah, I can certainly do that. USDT dominance. So I personally, besides using obvious trend lines, I like to use the Fibonacci fans as my trend line. Let me just lower the volume here a little bit. So I personally like to use the Fibonacci fans as my trend line. And, the way you kind of draw the fans is you look for a particular trend, right? So in this case, the trend is an uptrend triangle. So it kind of looks like this, right? So this is the 3 points for the Fibonacci fan. That's the, the low or the original point, the first high, first low, right? So you simply pull your fan tool. It's called a pitch fan. So it's under Fibonacci, right? So 1, 2, 3, third one down from the left. And this should be on every single trading view account, right? So you pull the pitch fan out, and then you go from the basic points to the first high to then the first low, and you're gonna have this fan. I think the OEM looks something like this. Well, it doesn't look something like this. It looks more elaborate. It looks more like this. That's the OEM fan. So if yours looks like this, you can kind of just take out the coloring and something like that, and eventually kind of make it look a little bit more, I guess, less distracting, right? The OEM level are applying. Like you can see that points like this, where it's literally where the bottom is, it's kind of like using as kind of like almost dynamic or diagonal support resistance. So this is a good place where you can kind of identify where the prices can potentially go. There's obviously proprietary levels where then, you would have to kind of take the class to be able to know. So then we have additional levels that, we kind of pay attention to, right? So these are more for class materials. They're not really just given away free. But anyways, the fan works perfectly well. And then you have your major, MSR means major support resistance, right? So you have your major support resistance levels that you kind of draw out. So for the 4 hour of my current read on the USDT is a very simple that we just recently broke below this Fibonacci fan. And then we literally had a retest by the red circle, right? So we retested it. And now we're back at the major resistance, basically level. You see I have an alert set here. If we were to break below, then a pretty decent pump is coming. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. So a lot of my 5-minute trades is also based on this because BTC typically goes hand in hand with USDT.dominance, right? So I did go a lot of longs today with knowing that, yesterday it hit here is probably going to have a pretty good reaction here. So this is my current analysis on USDT.dominance. So I'm waiting for the, USDT.dominance to really break below this major resistance, right? It'll probably retest it too, but, that's why my arrow is pointing down with potential pump. Does that answer your question, Willie? And for all of those of you who just joined us, Slink, Yansky, Pat, feel free to ask questions, right? My Friday streams is typically lecture stream. So you guys can feel free to ask any questions about any technical analysis, sentimental analysis, price action, candle action, anything you want to ask to help you better understand how to read the charts or how to see the pricing. I can also go over coins if you wanted to have certain coins to look at. Settings for the fibs. Are you talking about for the fib fans, the pitch fan? Those are for my students only, really, because they are proprietary, so they're not given out free. But the OEM is usually good enough for beginners, right? So if you have the OEM, it doesn't go quite as deep as here, but it kind of works for general purposes, right? Yeah, man. Not all good things are free, right? All right. If you don't have a particular thing you want to learn, you can just throw me a couple of coins. Maybe you want me to take a look at, and we can do that as well. Well, the reason why I set it up here, because we have a very obvious triangle and the whole range, right? Everything is about kind of within a certain range. So the whole price development kind of falls within this range. So I don't really need to kind of move my band forward. In fact, if I move my band forward, it wouldn't cover area like these. I also have additional levels where the fan can get a little bit wider, where we have additional levels for what's coming after, right? So the distance of the fan doesn't really matter as much because the price and patterns follow certain fib ratios throughout. So, it's not that relevant where I set the fan. But this is just a good location to cover a general area that the current price is kind of moving towards or it's using. Nobody has any coin you want to look at? No volunteers? I mean, the stream is for you guys. So if you want to see something or learn something, Okay, you want to take a look at ETH? When you give a coin, give me a little bit more detail, yeah? So, like, what are you looking for in ETH? Are you looking for futures, spot? Are you looking for long term, short term? What are you trying to get out of ETH? Are you trying to, make some money, trade short? Things like that. Give me some context. Looking for long? Okay. Yeah. Well, good job, Biscuit. Definitely share your learnings. Happy to, kind of share experience with that. All right, so let's take a look at ETH. This is based on Binance Titan. You can see we're currently ranging based on the 4-hour. We haven't really retested this area, right? So a simple trend line could be something that kind of has happened for quite a bit, right? So here's a potential trend line you can draw, or even something like this would do. Something like this. And this is just deviation, right? When you look at deviation, you really want to understand that when the retest fails, it usually goes the opposite direction pretty hardcore. Right? So it kind of came down because of deviation. So anytime any breakout is usually it's a very lucrative opportunity because if it deviates, meaning that the retest failed, you can almost always at this point bet the other direction and it will be very lucrative, right? And then over here, we printed a double bottom. So then the price is going to start going up, which it did. And then we basically challenged the trend line again. We failed again. So this will be another great opportunity to kind of go short, right? And then we kind of printed this kind of strong support resistance in the bottom. So this is what I would call a MSR. Basically, a major support resistance level. Every time the price came down here, it kind of bounces, right? So these are places where I can potentially go long. So now we had this gigantic breakout, and then we started ranging. So the very first thing I would potentially look at is the outcome of this range, right? So you can probably just draw, like identify what this range is currently doing. So you can see a potential trend line like this, where it's kind of ranging upwards. That's the first thing you see. And then maybe you see, currently we also have kind of something like this. So it's kind of making some sort of black pattern, flag. And now we're just kind of curious which side it's going to break out of, right? So I don't know, I can't predict which side is going to go, but I can know what to do when it break out each side, right? So if it comes down here, retested it successfully, then I know most likely the price is going to come back down here to retest this range, right? Because we had this breakout, but we never really retested this breakout. So it's very likely the price will revisit here, right? So if it does come down, it probably will come down hard. That's what ETH would do. Or we can potentially break out of this and then basically retest it and then go to the next all-time high, right? We can also do that. Or finally, if we break out and then we have a deviation, a failed retest, we can also potentially come back down here as well if we fail the basically the retest here and become a deviate. So that's some of the things you can potentially kind of look for. Whatever it is, it's going to happen fairly soon, right? Because the price is now being compressed. So if you're looking for long, really then what you're looking for is potentially of a breakout, some sort of this trend line. You're looking for some sort of breakout that is gonna basically come up, retest, and then go off. So this is the textbook, like a breakout situation. And normally you enter doing the retest. This is really the safe way to do it. Or if you have a breakout that looks as strong as this, right? This candle is just pretty much colossal candle, right? When you have a candle really as strong as this is what they call wave chasing. I mean, you can probably enter, but by the time you enter, you're probably already far in. But the problem is when you enter like this, what if it retests? And what if it retest fails? Right? Then you're basically exposing yourself to a lot of risk. So wave chasing is almost never encouraged just because you don't know if it's going to retest or not. Like all of this seems very easy and very clear in hindsight. But when things are still developing and happening, it's very hard to tell, right? So here's what I would like to show you guys real quick. So if I'm on the 4-hour candle, imagine, in fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to 1 hour. Okay. And you can see this candle, it's godly 1 hour candle, right? So I'm going to replay. I'm going to go back to here. And I'm going to show you what that looks like in terms of breakout. Because you have all the information you needed from this trend line. You have everything you needed. You're literally at the brink of breakout. You had a couple of up wicks to tell you that, there's a lot of seller pressure here, right? So we haven't really shown anything of a breakout yet. MACD was still overextended above 0. So none of the hints is suggesting that we're going to have that colossal breakout currently with the data. Okay, so this is not in hindsight anymore. This is basically in the moment. So as we kind of play through next candle, okay, this is the first time we close slightly above the trend line. Shit. Sorry, I clicked wrong. My bad. Let me do that again. Sorry about that. Clicked the wrong button. All right, so we were at here. Where were we? Okay, okay, so this is the first wick, second wick, third wick. Okay, and then literally, you see this? Like this god candle literally went up. If you didn't see it, let me do it again. Literally right before, okay? And I'm playing it, let's say at 1 speed, okay? 1x. So check this out. We were literally a couple of wicks down. Like it almost looked like the trend line is stopping us, right? And then the next candle, we barely closed above the trend line. And then the next candle literally went all the way up, all the way down, and all the way up again. Like literally, this is probably what you would see as a colossal candle, right? So if you were to chase now, saying, okay, we have a confirmation candle finally closed and is way above the trend line, and if you chase now, there's nothing that would suggest, or there's nothing preventing the price from retesting and potentially fail, right? So how do you know? Potentially, you can say, well, the volume would suggest that this is a true breakout because the volume is extremely large. So that's one confluence you can potentially look at to see if it's a deviation or not. You do have that. So let me just kind of give that to you. And then the next candle, you also have a gigantic candle up, right? So that tells you, okay, the momentum is certainly confirmed. But then the question is, when is the top, right? How do you know when to sell or when to take TP? So these are some of the things you're kind of thinking about when these type of breakout is happening, right? So if your question is, okay, right now we're about to have another breakout again, what am I exactly looking for? That's kind of what I'm looking for, right? So we either break out of here and start making new all-time highs, or we break down and then we're gonna have to come back and retest this area. So that's kind of what I'm saying. Hopefully that gives you some insight, Titan. And thank you, Derek. I appreciate it. All right. So any other questions, coins you want me to look at? Anything you want to learn? Feel free to ask questions, you guys. I don't charge. What's up, Juice? Good to see you. You guys have no questions? I mean, what do you expect to get out of this stream, I guess? That's another question, right? By attending, what are you hoping to learn? Oh, yeah, go ahead and type it, Juice. I mean, you're obviously here for a reason, right? Unless you're just here for the music. Yeah, I just didn't see anybody typing at the time. Now we got people typing. Before it was just like empty. All right, I'll shut up and let you type. By the way, let me know if the music is bothering you or distracting. I think the music can be turned off too on your side as well, if you really don't like it. I just figure it's a little bit more chill. Question regarding the 1 to 5 minute scale, the zones you identify based on what? They're just major support resistance zone, right? So since we're on ETH, we can take a look at it again. So the major support resistance zone is a very simple concept. Where does price rebound? That's the question. So, the price, let's say, right now we have an obvious structure, right? So the price came up here and here it rebounded. Back here, it rebounded, right? So these are the rebounding points. Let me just circle them so you kind of see what I'm saying. Okay, so and then rebounded back down here. And then rebounded back up here, rebounded back down here. So major support resistance zone is just basically you're trying to look for a confluence area where the rebound is happening very often. But it's not as simple as basically just draw a box and basically name that the zone, because then the question is, how respected are these zones, right? So that a lot of it takes practice and understanding the intuition of finding the right zones to place your entries and you know manage your risk. What I do find out is the long zone and the short zone is very different. For example, if I entered here to short based on this zone, I really wouldn't take profit based on the resistance that is happening prior, right? These are all resistances. I normally would take the support as my TP, right? Because it seems like when the price wants to go down, universally they want to kind of hit the same support line to make it a little bit more confluence, I guess. I notice every time when they come to about this range, I mean, it'll have a reaction of some sort, but usually it wants to continue to go to a certain point before the price really wants to start reversing. So that's one thing I found through the, you know, consistent daily scalping experimenting situation. Another thing I look at is fibs, right? Good old fibs. There's nothing wrong with fibs. Kind of look at the lowest point and then the highest point, and then you figure out, okay, well, if it does retrace, where is it likely to retrace, right? It just seems like right now the price is bouncing near 618 to about 0.5, right? So the fibs also can kind of give you some ideas about how to draw the zone. If you want to draw a zone between 618 and 0.5, you can also do that, right? Because 618 and 0.5 usually is a good reversal point. 786 is a deep retrace, so I don't necessarily think, you know, it will always come to 786, right? And the whole idea about, you know, I see you guys want to ask about the scalp ideas. The scalp ideas has a lot to do with risk management, right? Because you can be horribly wrong. Let's say you want to place a long trade here, just because every time the price comes here, it bounces. Like you can be horribly wrong, right? So the price can actually come down here and just ignore this zone altogether on the low time frame. And in fact, it happens all the time, right? So then the question is, okay, now it's completely wrong. Like, how do you manage it so it's profitable? I can actually do a quick demonstration in the 1 minute chart. So let me just go to 1 minute. And if I delete everything, so here's the 1 minute. And looking at this, we had a couple of, you know, very obvious support resistances, right? So we have the top here, pretty much, you know, every time it hit here, it rebounded. I can say the same for roughly down here. We have a deviation here. I don't worry about that. But you see how, like, literally in 1 minute chart, it does this kind of shit, right? So how do you manage this? So we were just about to kind of take off, and all of a sudden we had this gigantic momentum of, you know, downward momentum, right? So then the question is, how low does it want to go? Okay, so basically we have a double bottom here, so that can be a potential area where the price wants to rebound, right? And based on this wick, you can tell there's a lot of, you know, pressure here, buying, so pushing it up. Then the question is, why is it doing this? Um, Technically, there's nothing that can explain this behavior. So we're just kind of looking for either this is a bullish trend or bearish trend. And we can only know that based on the volume it's presenting. It looks like it's stabilizing here and is now kind of behaving and reacting based off of this, right? So to prove a point, if my entry is small enough, let's just say I have 1 unit of entry, which each unit of ETH is about 3,800 bucks, right? And right now I'm looking at this in a 5 minute scale. Do I think it's a uptrend or a downtrend? I think it's a ranging situation. But overall, I think if I go to 15 minutes, currently we're kind of in the uptrend, 1 hour. Yeah, like we're kind of in the uptrend, right? So for the 1 minute, I think it's probably a safer bet to go up, to go long, right? So if I just go long without thinking too much. Did I click? I think I did. Did I? There we go. Okay. So let's say I just enter in a random position. Okay. And I got in 2 positions of ETH. So the first thing I do is, okay, I'll probably take TP just at the top here because he can, you know, very potentially go up there if he wants to. But this is a very small position trade, right? So what if the price start going the completely opposite direction? Then I'm looking at locations where potentially it can rebound or retrace. Obviously, we have this gigantic wig that tells you that's a lot of liquidity here. So potentially we can look at other places where we either have zones or we have other, you know, swing levels. So this is kind of like a low swing. So I call it MSP, major swing point, right? So potentially I can have another BCA down here. But you'll notice that I never set stop loss, right? So if the price were to come down here, I would just add. So in this case, I would create an order for 2 units. I will have no stop loss and I will just wait. And then I have to decide where I take TP. So potentially, I think this is where then we can potentially have a reaction. So I'll take TP here. So right now I'm just looking at, okay, what's the price doing? And you simply wait. You set up and you wait. In the 1 minute chart, it's going to take a little bit quicker to play out. But, sometimes it also range uncontrollably, right? Just right now is now in the red again. Potentially, you'll probably want to come down here and maybe grab some more liquidity before it wants to go up. So if you want to add 2 units here, you also can. So it depends on the price action, right? So we have a pretty solid candle, but we're having the same reaction again at this zone. You see how the price is being kind of prevented from going down until it does, right? So if it does come down, then we'll just take a look at, when do we see a sign of pushback? You also kind of pay attention on MACD as well. So MACD shows you the momentum of direction. So in this case, we're not really overextending. We're still somewhat right below zero. But this candle, based on my experience, is usually the low point. Every time we hit a low or high point, you will have some sort of reversal. So you could potentially, add more here if you wanted to, or you can wait. So you now understand why in scalping, it's not like you can simply just give a couple of signals and be done with, right? You kind of need to know what the candle is doing. What does that mean? How you make decision based off price action. You should have a lot of different questions about, hey, why certain things happening a certain way. One thing I know that the market is not irrational, right? So yeah, sure. I'll see you, Willie. So whatever the price is doing or whatever the market is doing, it usually has a reason behind it. Being a good analyst is someone who can read, the market and understand the reason behind why it does certain things and make the decision based on those, patterns. So once you start kind of study it and understanding it, then you can always manage your way out. For example, these 2 week shows very bearish momentum, right? This blue candle is actually doji because, the wicks are almost equal length. That tells you the push power or the momentum is almost kind of like neutral. But this is where the price is really trying to go up, but got pushed down. So this is a bearish candle, right? So in my mind, the next candle is probably going to print down lower, which then, my MSP is probably going to get filled. Or we're going to have buyers keep trying. So at which point, depends on which pressure is in the end winning. That's really how the price is going to move up or down. Okay, but the far left zone, if price has moved through them, they're not valid. Well, the zone is typically just a fair value price, right? So you can think of it as every time price come here, the buyer think it's time to buy. That's why every time the price hit this place, it becomes a support, right? Because the buyer really think that's a fair value. Obviously, in this case, the seller just got fed up, right? So the seller pushed right through. There's just a lot of momentum for that. So you can't say, well, support resistance is kind of like static, I guess. They're not linear and they're not static because sentimentally, people have different fair value price at different times. You know, so it really just depends. What the current market is thinking, how they feel about the price. No, no, no. This is not your typical fair value. The typical one, I think, from ICP is where then you have long ass candles and you're looking for the wicks in between, and then you have a fair value gap. That's not what that is. This is where people think, this price is a good time to buy, or, good time to sell. It's more like premium discount concept. Okay, so it did come down, I think. Right, remember I told you this was very bearish. So it, did want to come down, but there's liquidity block right here, you can see, based on this wick. So we have to break out of this block in order to keep going down. Okay, we just broke the block. So you'll probably continue to come down. In this case, it is. Okay, so we have another block here that we need to break. So the candle is telling you a lot more stories than meets the eye, right? So if you get like this average entry actually moves, right? And that's how you manage your trade. Because as the price continued to go to the opposite direction of what you initially thought it was going to go, you're moving literally your entry point, right? So as you're moving your average entry point, you can manage your way out of the trade much easier. You guys kind of see my point? So I kind of saw this as a bottom, potential bottom, just based on the price action. Now this candle continues to try to want to break through here. So then the question is, do we have more selling pressure or more liquidity at this block? Depends on which one is more, the price will go either direction, right? But right now it looks like we have more liquidity here. So the price is going to start reversing until it's hit another selling pressure or liquidity up here. And then it's going to start having some reaction. So what I do know is we have a order block here that was formed, right? So potential as we come up here, we'll probably see some sort of reaction. The concept of open interest is an interesting one. So open interest just tells you how many new open up trades that is currently available, right? Or currently established. So people kind of use open interest as some sort of indication of the interest of the market. So are they more long or are they more short? Yeah, there you go. That's very good. Yeah, so my 5 minute, yeah, let me show you guys this. So my 5 minute setup earlier today just made about $1,600, right? And this is just my, my presets basically got hit. So yeah, not bad. A lot of fees paid too. So these are a lot of fees. When you see crazy high fees, that just means multiple DCAs got filled. But that's just my 5 minute setups. What do you mean preset invalid? You mean from yesterday? Yeah, I mean I update them every day. Again, you see how we have a lot of liquidity here. So this is probably a big pocket, just like right here. So there's a lot of buying pressure here. And we're also overextending to below zero on MACD. So I wouldn't mind adding another position here. So David, your short is based on my previous 5 minute setup, right? The one you show for Maxi? Or was that something you did yourself? Okay, good. Very good. Awesome, man. Good job. All right, so we're showing behavior again. It's trying to go back up. But see how the price action is just continuing to create these order blocks? So that tells you like the overall sentiment is bearish because every time it comes down, it creates a new bearish order block. Well, I'm kind of scalping though. I mean, you can say that. But I'm just trying to explain, because you guys wanted to understand the concept of how I do my scalps. I personally like scalps so much more than swing, just because I don't want to have my trades. I don't want to, I don't want to sleep worried about whether or not my trade is going to play out. Yeah, so you see how we broke out this block? So this is a kind of almost like a confirmed sign of reversal. This white candle is almost expected because we're in liquidity zone. So I'm also expecting some sort of reaction here in this order block as well, right? So if it comes up, it'll probably have some sort of reaction. So I like to kind of look at the charts as if the charts were alive, and it's literally telling you what it's doing, what it needs. Once you really kind of start to understand what the chart is trying to tell you, I typically don't like the EDM of printing money or the metaphor of printing money, but it's really not that far off. Yeah, BTC does stuff like that, but you have to consider we're almost market open, right? So that's probably pre-market volume. This is another reason why I don't like to trade during these time, because during these time, things can really go any direction. Okay, you see how there's a lot of liquidity up here, right? And this is from this block. If we can break through this block, we can probably take some profits. Okay, so now we have another block right here, right? And we have another block right here. You see how this momentum, as it come down, it created all these blocks. So what I can do if I just want to get out of this trade, because I think it's overall bearish, I can literally have my TP by this block, because I don't think we have enough momentum to break through all these blocks. So I can choose which block I'm just pretty much done with, right? So I can just choose to take my TP based on this order block. Or I can get out now and basically, break even if I think that the price is going to continue to come down. The question is, will it though? Then you will look at Fibonacci, right? So based on Fibonacci, currently we're at a 236. We did have a pretty good run, so I don't think 236 is enough liquidity to break through this liquidity block. So we'll probably go to the 382, maybe even the 0.5. I mean, it can. It doesn't have to, but it can. But 236 sometimes also enough to kind of keep pushing. The question is, are we going to have a double bottom here, right? So if we have a double bottom, it's almost guaranteed that we'll probably go up higher. So let's see. And by the way, you can continue to ask questions. You don't have to just listen in, right? The whole point of my type of streaming culture is that it's very highly interactive. My entry? My entry, I can barely see. Hold on. Yeah, it's like 37.92. And I'm entering long. I don't actually mean to enter long. I kind of entered randomly just to prove a point about risk management and how you get yourself out of a bad trade. So I wasn't really scalping. I was just proving a point that knowing the direction is not as important as risk management. Yeah, don't worry about it. You can always ask. Yeah, so we had an opportunity to actually break even after fees. But it looks like this block was enough to kind of start pushing the price to another direction again. So sometimes you also don't want to be greedy, right? You also learn that if you really think you're in the wrong side of the trade, meaning that you should be short instead of long, every chance you get for breaking even, you should take it. Yeah, there is unemployment rate, but I don't trade news. So whatever the news has the power over the market price, I believe it has some relevance. I personally don't really trade it. Now I'm kind of bullish right now just because we're printing bullish momentum and we're really overextended under zero. That's true. That could be the reason for it. But like I said, I don't really pay attention to it. Like the 8 grand I made last night just with the 5-minute, BTC setups. Yeah, those have nothing to do with news. And the reason why I don't want to consider news is because that's a whole different area of expertise. I don't want to become someone who really understands everything. I just want to have my niche, right? So kind of know what I'm doing in the areas of what I'm kind of trying to master. So keep it simple. Not saying that news is irrelevant. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that I personally don't trade news. Okay, so the overall sentiment is still bullish. We see a lot of resistance. So this is where you can decide what you want to do. I think the TP at this zone, right, this order block is fairly reasonable. So I'm just going to leave it there. And I'm pretty sure it's going to hit, right? So any questions as we're kind of closing our stream here? 1 hour is quite fast, right? So already 8:48. So we got about 10 more minutes. Anything you guys are curious about, want me to answer? Any questions? Any coins you want me to look at? What exactly is that? $sign W? I'm not sure what that is. $sign W is a coin? Okay, let me take a look. Well, you know the drill, Derek. You always want to tell me what you want. The context of your question is important. Are you looking at what? Futures, spot? What exactly are you asking? I trade randomly throughout the day, Juice. I typically like to trade maybe around 10 a.m. GMT or maybe 11 a.m. GMT. I don't necessarily like to trade during market open times just because the flood of volume sometimes can be chaotic. I much prefer when I do 1 minute scalps, I much prefer a little bit more smoother ride where, those colossal candles not just going to print all of a sudden randomly out of nowhere. That to me is more manipulation, right? Pump and dump type of action. Yeah, I'm just going to get out of this trade. Because this is more and more looking more like it's trying to create a new lower low instead of trying to kind of break back to where it was. That's why I say, you know what, screw it, I'm just going to get out. Yeah, so most of my short actually hit. That's why I made like $1,600. You see how, the major support resistance level, even for these type of non-explainable situation. Well, I guess the news cost, but even then, it hit at the level where I think it's gonna hit. So it's almost irrelevant what the news did. I mean, it still hit the level that I knew was gonna try to hit. So still doing okay, even at the 5 minute mark, right? Oh, you type it out earlier. Spots. Okay, short and long term targets. Okay, let's take a look at W. W spot. Is Binance okay for exchange? Okay, cool. Oh, I actually have seen this coin. Let me just delete everything. All right, long term. Usually, long term, I take a look at 4 hour because 4 hour to me, the trade's gonna play out long term. Based on earlier what I kind of talk about, where I'm just gonna draw a fan. All right, let me make sure the fan is accurate. Fan is it's actually quite sensitive to the placement, so you want to make sure you really capture top and bottom. I typically use the body. I don't really necessarily use the wicks for this, just because I 4 hour I think is still somewhat low time frame, so I still use the candle bodies. A lot of people can disagree, but you'll see that it's kind of been behaving quite naturally to the fib levels, right? So this is kind of like a zone bottom here. We have a top here. We also have a top here. So it's kind of just ranging. If you want to kind of understand this, it's kind of like ranging in between this area, right? So it's just kind of like ranging. So then, until we have a breakout, you don't know what's going to do. We also never really retested the breakout. So potentially you'll want to retest around this zone. So it might come down here. But you see, when the price is diagonal, the longer you wait, the price is different, right? So you could actually retest it at a higher price. Depends on, how long it takes for it to retest. I'm sorry, that is BNB. W. I thought I click on this. There we go. Okay, here we go. I'm sorry about that. That was BNB. Okay, so 4 hour. Back to this. Pretty relatively new coin. When you have a new coin, I look at 1 hour instead. Just there's a little bit more data. Okay. So in this scenario, let me see if I can find a clear place to draw a fan. I mean, this will work. Probably use this. 1, 2, 3, something like this. Third point. Here's good. Okay. And then we'll need something that's wider. Like this. Okay, great. All right, same idea, right? So you see it kind of bounce off here, bounce off here. Most likely it will bounce off here. The bottom is bouncing off here based on this fib, bouncing off here. We also have a bottom like right here. We're ranging in between here, and then we have our low here, right? So you can kind of see these areas. That's where, the fifth end is actually working pretty well. Same thing with bounce off here, right? So right now, if we're continuing to look at what the price is doing, the very first area I'm probably focusing on is here, right? Whether or not we're going to have a breakout, right? Because if we do have a breakout based on the fib, the next level is going to be the pink up here. So potentially it can go quite high. So if we have a short-term breakout, then probably we'll hit somewhere like 0.83, maybe 83 cents, something like that. That's very highly likely. And then we'll probably have a reverse. So you can either basically short here, or you can basically take a long once the breakout is confirmed and go to the next level. So these trades are, quite easy to manage your risk, and it's pretty easy and manageable. Does that answer your question, Derek? Short trigger. What do you mean by short trigger? Where do you hear me say that? And Derek, you understand how to read this thing, right? So the gray is your entry, red is stop loss, green is your TP. Right, Derek? Yeah, I don't know everything that Sherlock says. So it also depends on the context. I wouldn't be able to guess from just, paraphrasing like that. And I don't want to misquote Sherlock, right? Oh, so this is more of a future trade. If you're already in spot, what was your entry for spot? I don't know about short triggers, financial term. Short trigger. Maybe short trigger by saying that the short is then filled. It's kind of like, okay, the price go up to here, the short trade is now triggered, so it's now filled. Maybe. I'm not 100% sure, but that's kind of my immediate thought about it. So you're at what, 0.64? Okay. If you're at 0.64, your entry is decent. You're obviously making money right now. Then the question is you go daily, right? What's the all-time high? 1.857. So yeah, we're still quite a ways from 1.857. You can potentially aim for that as your TP, which is about 162%, 1.6 type of gain. Like you can probably aim that. Or selling your spot or a big portion of your spot. Right now, you probably just want to do futures to kind of hedge against your spot. And why do I say that? Well, you can certainly sell your spot here, but then the question is, what if it just kind of keep breaking up, right? Keep breaking through. What if it just want to, keep going up? Then every time you sell your spot, you basically lose out on the potential gain opportunity, right? Do you understand this concept, Derek? Because if you sold it here, you're not going to be able to sell it again there, right? Let's say you sell your spot here, but the price keep going up and you have no more spot to sell here. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, that's the nature of spot, right? So instead of selling your spot here, what you can do is you set up a short. You should set up a short trade, not selling your actual spot, but you hedge against your spot. So if the price were to rebound from here, you will capture all of the short gains, right? From your short trade. But then you're not really selling your spot. So you're still making money. So why is it called a hedge? It's because if the price, instead of coming down, it keeps going up, your short will obviously get stopped out, right? But then because you make so much on your spot, you don't really care about the loss in your short. Make sense? So if it goes up, you make money. It goes down, you make money. That's the point of hedging. Yeah. So that's basically how I take TPs for majority of my spot holdings at this current time. Until when? Until we're kind of reaching the all-time high status. Then I'm quite happy to get rid of some of my actual spot bags. And then I have maybe a few for moon bags that breaks the all-time high, and all kinds of different type of ratio to consider. But until all-time high, I'm not really selling any of my spot. It just doesn't make sense to, because we're about to have a gigantic bull run. There's no reason to sell your spot prematurely just for 100, 200% gains. That is 100% up to you, because that will be in the areas of financial advice, Derek. But if you're asking me personally, typically I just hedge whatever amount I want to make. And I still consider my portfolio size, right, in terms of futures. So first of all, I don't have a million different hedge, right? I keep it only at 3 open future positions maximum at a time, because typically the direction is usually the same. So if one of them goes wrong, all of them goes wrong. Just like if one of them goes right, all of them goes right. Right. So I wouldn't have, even though if I hold, let's say, 20 different spots, I will still only have 3 hedges. How much depends on how much profit you're trying to take, right? You can take the entire position. Let's say if I got into the hedge for $2,000, and if I want to just take 30% of that, which is what, $600, right? So then I would hedge something that which I would risk maybe $100 to make 600, something like that. So it's 1 to 6 RR. Or if it doesn't look like 1 to 6 RR is reasonable, then I would risk more, right? So I risk $300 to make 600. Then in that case, it's just 1 to 2 RR, which is very easy in any type of retrace, right? I probably wouldn't sell all spot bags based on season. The question is, when do you know all season starts and when do you know when it ends? It's not like you get a siren bell that rings. It's telling you the season is over, right? So I don't really kind of base my decision on something that is intangible like that. A lot of times I base on previous historic data, and one of the things I'm going to start considering is probably Elliott waves, because Elliott waves has a pretty consistent ability to kind of time the top and the bottom, right? So if you can really read the Elliott wave well, then you can probably time the top and bottom. Perceive, yeah. I mean, I didn't see the perceive there, but perceive is very subjective, right? One person might think the all season is ending. One person might disagree. Elliott wave, they do have an indicator, but they suck. This Elliott wave indicator comes with TradingView themselves, and it's pretty useless in my opinion. I give it almost 0 credit. I mean, they give you a prediction and everything, kind of draws out the Elliott wave in their opinion. But for the few Elliott wave rules that I actually understand, I just don't see how it follows those rules. I don't believe in indicators. That's the first thing Sherlock drilled in my head when I was taking Sherlock's mentorship program. Well, not when, I'm still in his program, but I'm in it lifetime. Sherlock is going to be my mentor for lifetime. But anyway, as I've learned from him, the very first thing he taught me is don't believe in indicators. So, I mean, I look at volume, which technically is data, not indication, right? I look at MACD, technically is data again. It's not really necessarily an indication. I mean, the divergences can be an indicator, but that's more data oriented. So I look at more data, price action, candle action, fundamentals. I look at order blocks, liquidity blocks. I feel like right now the reason why I have so much success in my scalps is because I have learned how to identify where the liquidity sits. And that's just by sitting in front of the screen on a daily basis, right? I mean, the more you attend my daily live streams, the more you'll basically build the same intuition in understanding, why the price is doing certain things. And you'll soon understand it's all behavioral, right? Everything's a pattern. It behaves the same way, happens again. You can have a pretty good probability that you'll probably do the same things over. And that's how I trade, right? How I base all my decisions on. So I don't think there's one indicator that's amazing. I do have an indicator I like to show you guys that is quite sad. So I forgot what it's called. Let me pull it up on my 4-hour chart. All right, and I'll end on this note. So there's an indicator I use that was introduced to me almost as a sarcastic joke. That was called. It's not here. Let me see if it's here. Something bubble. Market bubble. There you go. All right. So what I would like to show you guys is this market bubble. Okay. And I'll pull out probably the major data, maybe based on Binance. Okay. So what market bubble is basically a indicator that shows you based on the exchange data where a majority of the buy and sell happens. Green is buy, red is sell. So you see that behaviorally why most people lose money, right? Because this is literally the reflection of the general market. Most people sell at the lowest point and buy when they chase the run, right? Chase the wave. And when you look at this, it's almost kind of like a reverse indication where you feel like, oh my God, when people are buying, you should be selling. LOL is correct. First time I saw it, I was like, this is pathetic, right? This is why people are saying everything's a scam because they always sell at the top of something. I'm sorry, they always buy at the top of something. And then when the price start coming down, they be like, you know what, Bitcoin's going to zero, this is bullshit, and they start selling, right? Literally. And now you see they start buying again up top. So when you look at this indicator, you'd be like, oh my gosh, like what the hell are people doing? And this is just Binance. If you look at MaxC, it's the same thing. They buy at the very, very top. Hey, what's up, Denver? You see, they buy at the very, very top and they sell at the very, very bottom. When I see this, I'm just sad. Like, one of the main reasons why I want to do a lot of free live streams because I want to prevent as many people from doing, this type of decisions, I guess, right? If you're interested to find out, this indicator is called Market Bubbles, Market Order Bubble by Leviathan. Yeah, I mean, now so many people buying, probably a good time to short. Exactly. Do what the market people are not doing. Yeah, so this is a great indication, right? To kind of tell you what the people are doing so you can do exactly the opposite and hope to make some money. All right, you guys, any other questions? My hour is up. In fact, we're 7 minutes over time. Trader using a capital takes off. I think the initial preset is like 10% or 15% or something like that. So that's usually copy trading. So let's say you made $100, minimum fee is 10%. That's for sure. So $10 goes to the copy trader. But when you lose money, they don't share your loss. And I haven't really started an official copy trading account. I did one for Binance, but then I didn't really, because a lot of people complain they don't have access to Binance. So right now I'm trying to build one in MaxC, but MaxC rejected me because I don't really have a lot of history with them. So I would have to do quite a bit more trading with MaxC before I can set up an account there. Yeah, another reason I don't do it on Binance is I realize their fees is just stupid, retarded. Exactly, retarded fees. Any other? I mean, we're probably too late for any additional, lectures on concepts. But anything I can answer for you guys short term, or are you guys all set? I really like to keep this within just 1 hour.